Hello, in this section we're going to have a look at expanding double brackets. So I've got four sections, each of which gets slightly harder each time, and a couple of examples for each one. So hopefully by the end of this they will make a bit more sense. Let me just share my screen with you. Here we go. Okay, so there's two ways we can expand brackets. What I'll do is I'll take the first one first and I'll show you the method that's commonly used in schools. I must admit, I personally think this is a bit harder, but I'll show you both and then you can decide which you prefer. So the first one is, they call it the FOIL method because what we do is we do the first times the first. So F times, that will give us F squared. And then we'll go first times outer, so that's the O, and X times 3 gives us 3X. Then we do the inner, so that's the I, and 2 times X equals 2X. And then we do the last. So now we go 2 times 3, which gives us 6. So last equals 6. And then what we do is we simplify this. So we've only got this one here, which is an x squared. So that's going to have to stay by itself. So that gives us x squared. And then we've got this one here. Let me use a different color actually. We've got this one here. We've got the 3x and we've got a 2x. They're only x's, they're not squared, they're not just numbers, they're x's. So we can simplify these two together. So we've got 3x plus 2x, which gives us 5x. Okay. And then we're left with just a 6, which is here. So we'll pop that on the end. At the moment, everything is positive, so we don't need to worry too much about it. So our answer for the first one would be x squared plus 5x plus 6. Okay. So that's the first method. The other way we can do it is to clear all of this. And we start by drawing ourselves a noughts and crosses grid. Okay. And we can put one of the brackets across the top. So I'll take that one, x plus 2, and then we'll pop the other brackets down the side. So x plus 3. Okay. And then what we simply do is we go x times x gives us x squared. Okay. Then x times 3 gives us 3x. And then we can go x times 2 gives us 2x. And 2 times 3 gives us 6. Okay, so in exactly the same place now as we were before, but you can see what you've done. There's less confusion. You can just put things into packets or boxes and then just tidy it up. So once again, we have just an x squared. So that's there. Whoops. And then we have a 2x and a 3x. So we'll add those together and that gives us 5x. And then finally, we're left with just the 6. Yeah. Okay, so we'll pop that in the end. So both of them will give us exactly the same answer. It just depends which format you prefer. So for the first one, what I will do, for the second one, I'll do the FOIL method again, I think, but we'll type it like this. It might be neater. X plus 5 and x plus 4. Okay. So we'll start by going first times first. So x times x is x squared. Okay, that's the F. And then we go the outer, so the outer one here. Sorry, then we go the outer, so first times the outer. So 4 times x gives us 4x. Put that in. And then we go inner, so 5 times x gives us 5x. and then we do the last. So 5 times 4 gives us 20. Okay, and then once again, this is just here to remind us of the acronym, so you can ignore that. Okay, so then we can simplify it all down. So we've got an x squared, so we'll pop that in. So we've done that, get rid of that. Then we've got a 4x plus a 5x. So we'll pop these two in next. That gives us 9x. And then last but not least, we've got the 20. So we'll pop that on the end. Okay. So that would be the answer for that one. So let's quickly do the other method as well. So draw our noughts and crosses grid. I do both methods for all the examples, I think. So feel free just to fast forward to get to the method that you prefer. Okay. Don't feel obliged to sit and watch all of them. So we've got x times x gives us x squared. X times 4 gives us 4x. X times 5 gives us 5x. And 5 times 4 gives us 20. Okay, so we just fill in the boxes, multiplying them across. What you can do is put a times there to remind yourself that you're multiplying. Okay, and then simplifying it out. So we'll start with the x squared. And then we'll take the 5x plus the 4x, and we'll add those together, which gives us a 9x. And then we'll take the last one, which is the 20 that we're left with, so we'll add 20 there. Okay, so that's the first one's done. That's when everything is positive and life is quite straightforward. Okay, in the next examples are going to get slightly harder and introduce some negatives. Okay, the principle is still exactly the same. It's just we have to take into account we've got some positives, some negatives. So let's start with the FOIL method. So like I say, feel free to fast forward if this isn't the one for you. Just pop it in, and x minus 7. Okay, make it a bit bigger. No, that didn't actually make it any bigger. Okay, so let's write down our acronyms so remember what we have to do. So we go first and first. X times x gives us x squared. Okay, then we'll go first and outer. So this time we've got first x times minus 7, so that will give us minus 7x. Okay, and then we'll go inner, so 4 times x. Everything's positive there, so we can go plus 4x. And then we'll do the last one. So 4 times minus 7 gives us minus 28. Okay. And this is just the acronym, so we can box it off so we don't get confused by it. So let's start. We've got an x squared, so we'll pop that in. And then we have a minus 7 and a plus 4. So minus 7 plus 4 is minus 3x. Okay. And then our next one we have is, let's choose a color. Let's go red. We're left with a minus 28, so we'll pop that on the end. Okay. Okay, so that would be our answer for the first one. Let's try again with the other method. So we draw ourselves our noughts and crosses grid. And we'll put the brackets inside. So I'll put x plus 4. So that's the first bracket here. And x minus 7. That's the second bracket that I've put down there. So once again, x times x equals x squared. 4 times x is 4x. Minus 7 times x gives us minus 7x. And minus 7 times positive 4 is minus 28. Okay. So then we simplify it all out. So we'll start with the x's. So we'll start with x squared. And then we'll take, whoops, the x's. So, and the reason we're simplifying it like this is x squareds and x's are different. It's a bit like adding, although they're similar, it's a bit like adding custard and gravy. Whoops, it just doesn't work. It wouldn't taste nice. So you don't do it. Okay, so x squareds are separate to x's, which are separate to the single digits. Okay, so we've got -7 plus 4 gives us -3x. And then we're left with a -28. So that goes by itself at the end. Okay, so once again, we've got exactly the same answer as before. Okay, let's try the second example. So I'll type it in. We've got x -2 and x -8. Okay, so we'll start with the FOIL method again. So we'll just write it in so we don't forget our acronym. So we've got first times first, which is the x. So x times x is x squared. And then we've got the outer, so x times -8. Okay, so that gives us -8x. Then we'll go with the inner, so -2 times x gives us -2x. And then finally, we're left with -2 times -8. A negative times a negative is a positive, and 2 times 8 is 16. So that'll give us that. And then we can simplify it all down. So let's box that off. And we've got x squared. That's that one done. -8 take 2 gives us -10x. And then at the end, so that's that one done and that one done. And then we're just left with +16. Okay. So that would be the answer for that one. And we'll once again try the other method in case you prefer. I used to work with a girl and she used to call it a waffle. So since then I've called it the waffle method. So let's pop in our brackets and x -8. So we have x times x gives us x squared. -2 times x gives us -2x. X times -8 is -8x. And a negative times a negative is a positive, and 2 times 8 is 16. Okay, so let's once again simplify this out. So we've got x squared, and then we have, we'll take the blue, a -2x plus a -8x. So -2 take 8 gives us -10x. And then at the end, we're left here with +16. So we'll pop that on the end. Okay, so that's getting slightly harder because we're now using negatives, but as you can see, the principle remains exactly the same for both. So moving on, slightly harder still because here we've got a digit before the x. Okay, so let's start with our FOIL method. And we'll go 2x plus 1 and x plus 3. Okay, so let's write down the acronym as well. FOIL. So we'll start with the first one. So this time we've got 2x times x. That's the same as 2 times 1 gives us 2. And x times x is x squared. Okay, so we've got 2x squared to get us going. Next, we'll go with the outer. So 2x times 3. So 2 times 3 is 6. And then we've got our single x. Okay. Then we go inner. So 1 times x is just 1x. And 1 times 3 is 4. Okay. And then once again, we'll simplify it out. So we've got a 2x squared. A 6x and a 1x. So 6x plus 1x gives me 7x. And the reason it's like that is because I've got 6 x's in this hand and I've got 1 x in that hand. So I've got 7 x's altogether. Okay, that's why it's not become a squared. And then I'm left with a 4 at the end. So we'll pop that on. Okay. And that would be my final answer. Let's try the other method. Whoops. Okay, so draw our noughts and crosses grid or our waffle. And we've got a 2x and a 1 and an x and a 3. Okay, so we'll start by doing 2x times 1x, which gives us 2x squared. And then I've got a 1 times x gives me 1x. 2 times 3 gives me 6x. And 3 times 1 gives me 3. Okay, so I have a 2x squared, which is how we'll start. And then we'll have our 1x plus our 6x. Another girl I used to work with from a different school, they used to call this the peanut method, because when you add those two, it looks a bit like a peanut. But whatever helps you remember it, basically. And then we're left with our 3 here, so pop plus 3 on the end. Okay, so that would be the answer for number 11. Okay, then let's go with the last ones here. So we've got x minus 4, and again, these are just marginally harder because they've given us a number before the x that we need to take into account. So we'll start with the FOIL method. So we'll start by doing x times 3x. That's 3 times 1 is 3, and x times x is x squared. Okay. And then we go outer, so x times 2. So 2 times x is 2x. And then we go inner, so minus 4 times 3. Minus 4 times 3 is minus 12. And then we've got an x there as well, so we'll pop that on. And then minus 4 times 2 is minus 8. So a negative times a positive is a negative, so that gives us a minus 8. And then we can simplify it. So we've got 3x squared at the top there. And then I've got 2x minus 12x. That takes me down to minus 10x. And then I'm just left with minus 8 on the end. Okay. Okay, so that would be that version. Or we can take the other version, the other method, and draw our noughts and crosses grid. So we've got x minus 4 across the top or down the side. It doesn't matter because it's like 3 times 2 is 6 or 2 times 3 is 6. Both ways it's going to give you the same answer. So you can do them either. Okay. So now we've got 3 times 1, which gives us 3, and x times x gives us x squared. And then we'll go x times 2 gives us 2x. 3 times minus 4, negative times positive is a negative, so minus 12x. And negative times positive, so minus 4 times 2 is minus 8. Okay, hopefully this is still making sense. So we've got 3x squared, and that's this box done. And then we've got our minus 12 plus 2, which takes us to minus 10x. And then we're left with minus 8 on the end. Okay, so once again, we've got exactly the same answer. Okay, one more to go. And we're getting marginally harder again. So let's start with the waffle method. No, let's start with the FOIL method. So a minus b. This time they haven't given us any numbers in the first one. They've just given us letters. They've also given us positives and negatives. So we've got, if I could type, a couple of different variables going on here. So let's type it in, pop down our acronym so we know what we're doing. So we'll start with a times a just gives us a squared. Okay. And then we go to the outer. So a times b is AB, okay? And then we'll go to inner. So minus B times A is minus, and we put them in, is minus BA, but that's the same as AB. And we'll put them in that order, just so that alphabetical order's just kind of like the way it normally goes. And then we'll go B times B. So last, minus B times positive B is minus, because negative times positive, B times B, B squared. Okay, and then we come to simplify it. So I've got an A squared, so we'll pop that in. And then I've got an AB here, take away AB here. So I had an AB and then it was taken away. So actually they just cancel each other out. Okay. And so then I'm left with a minus B on the end. So my answer for this one is literally just A squared minus B squared. Okay. Let's have a go with the other method. And this is where I think this method is better because it's easier to see what you've got. So I've got an A, whoops, I've got a minus B. Let's just clear that away. I've got an A and I've got a plus B. Okay, so A times A gave me A squared. And A, negative times positive is a negative, and A times B is AB. Okay. Positive times positive is a positive, so AB. Whoops. And then negative times positive is a negative, and a B times B is a B squared. If there's nothing in front of the letter, presume it's a positive, okay? So where it doesn't say negative, it's a positive. So we've got A squared here. And then I've got an AB, take away AB. So that just gets rid of that. It's the same as 3 take away 3 or 10 take away 10. One gets rid of the other one, which means I'm then just left with a minus B squared on the end. Okay, and once again, that's my final answer. Okay, just got one more to go. And this time it looks different. It looks like we've got something completely different, but actually all this means is x plus 2 times by itself. So x plus 2 once again. Okay, so let's start the FOIL method. So we'll go FOIL. And we'll start by going x times x squared, outer, x times 2 gives me 2x. And then I've got the inner, so 2 times x, once again gives me 2x. And finally, the last one, 2 times 2, which gives me 4. So this time we're left with x squared. That's that one done. A 2x and another 2x, which gives me 4x. Let's use those, and then we've just got the 4 at the bottom. Okay, so our answer would be x squared plus 4x plus 4. And then we'll finally have a go at the waffle method. So we've got x plus 2 times by itself, so x plus 2. Because this is literally x plus 2 times by itself twice. So once, twice. Okay, so we've got x times x is x squared. X times 2 is 2x. X times 2 is 2x. And 2 times 2 gives me 4. So let's start with an x squared. 2x plus 2x gives me 4x. So that's this one and this one. And then finally, I'm left with the 4. And so once again, my answer is x squared plus 4x plus 4. I hope that's made sense. Any questions at all, please do ask, and I will be more than happy to help. Take care.